We are still on Terraform. If you recall, in the last session, we were able to set up this Terraform script without specifying the secret key and the access key within this block. And we're able to run that successfully. So if you look at this script, that's sixth, within this sixth directory, let's see, cd to sixth. Within this sixth directory, we'll see that we're able to use this file, okay, and we're able to create resources, which we eventually destroyed. That is why we have this file, okay? That's why we have this backup file. If we check here, the tf state file, okay, the tf state file, you see that that file should be, okay, you see, we do not have all those outputs that we had, right? The resources, right? Resources that we should have, we do not have them here. So if we check the .backup, okay, backup file, you see, we have all of those things that we created, right? Using the Terraform script, you see. This is everything we created using that particular Terraform script. But let's take it that we want to still run the same script. Remember, we exported those details, the secret key and the access key, we put them in as environmental variables on the command line directly, right? Which was what we did, okay? So if we take a look at, let's see here, okay? If we take a look at this, let's browse providers, AWS, documentation. Okay, so if you scroll down, just to refresh our memory on what we did, okay? So what we did was that we exported this, okay? We kept this on the command line, okay? Just as it is, we just replaced this access key ID with our own access key. We also use this, okay? We specified the secret access key as well, okay? So, but this time around, we want to do something different. But before we go ahead, okay, if you recall, we said something that, okay, whatever it is that we entered earlier, okay, what if we come in and we try to execute this all over, right? So if we try to execute this all over by saying, okay, Terraform is already initialized here, okay, we can do Terraform plan, you see, Terraform plan, okay, it tells us what is possible. I went in the directory, okay. Okay, Terraform plan failed, okay. Terraform plan failed. Why could this have failed, okay? Why could this have failed? You see, if you look at this, it says no role found. But we imputed the role in the last session. Why does it say no role found? Okay, so what it means is that when you use the command line, you put in the environmental variable on the command line, just as we did in the last session before ending the class. It is only valid for that particular session, okay? So what it means is that if I want to do it again, I need to come in here and put in those details, okay? But if I do not want to be doing this over and over again, are there other options? Okay, yes. We are going to run the same script, but this time around, let's go home. Let's cd to go home, okay? Now we are the home of this user, home of EC2-user, okay? Now that we are at home, what can we do? Check ls-a okay, we see that there's this file here called .bash underscore profile file, okay? I need to use the ls-a, the -a option for us to be able to see the hidden files, okay? .bash underscore profile. So now that we see this .bash underscore profile, if you VI into that file, okay, if you VI into this .bash underscore profile, okay, if you VI into this file, you see that we are familiar with this file, okay? When we're setting up Maven, we had to make some modifications to this file to ensure that we specify the Maven home directory, okay, and the paths to the Maven binary, okay? So those were things we did when we were looking at Maven, okay? But this time around, we want to also set those details, okay, that we saw there, those details that we saw on Terraform website, okay, like all this, which we imputed in the, okay, which we imputed on the command line during the last session. We want to bring them in here, okay, into this file, okay. We want to bring them into this file, okay, bring this in. But this time around, we need to take out the $ in front. Take out the $ in front, okay, so we have that. Take this out as well, okay, now we have this, okay. So we need to add this to the file. If we just go ahead and save this, we are not doing things right, okay. We need to update this, right? We need to update the access key and the secret key, you see, to update the access key and the secret. Okay, so down here, we have the secret key. So we have the secret key. So let's put in the secret key here. So we can put in the secret key here. Okay, so now that we have this, we've set this up. The secret key, we have it here. Okay, so we just need to go ahead and save this file. Okay, here within this file, we set up the environmental variables. You see, we set up our environmental variables. But if I still go ahead and go to that directory and try to run, okay, if I go ahead and still try to run this, you see, we'll realize that we'll still get an error, okay? So let's cd2 sixth, okay? Now within sixth directory, I want to run my Terraform plan again, okay? Terraform plan, you see, when we do this, we'll still get an error because we need to refresh that file. Anytime you modify that file, there's need for you to refresh the file, okay? Anytime you modify the file, you need to refresh it. So to refresh the file, okay, you just run this source command, okay? Source command, okay? You run the source command to refresh the file. So the file name is .bash underscore profile. But if I run this right here, okay, is it going to work? This file is not located in this directory. So what we need to do is to specify an absolute path, okay? Specify an absolute path is in the user home directory, okay? And the file name is .bash underscore profile, okay? So if we run this, you see, you've refreshed that file, okay? So now, once we refresh the file, if we go ahead and try to run Terraform plan again, let's see what we'll get. You see? You see? Now we are getting the result we expect, right? You can see plan 1 to add, 0 to change, 0 to destroy, okay? So what we've done here is to set up the environmental variables such that we specify them in the file. You see, we specify them in the bash_profile file. And we needed to refresh the file, okay? We needed to use the source command to refresh the file for everything to get activated, okay? Now, if I go ahead and run my Terraform apply command, okay? Terraform apply command, you see, it's going to create the infrastructure, okay? So now, instance creating, you see. So if we come back here to AWS, let's see whether something is coming up already. Okay, so instances, you see, this is pending. This is being created. You can see this is being created. Now, we're able to achieve all of this by setting up that within the .bash_profile file. So if for some reason we want to do it the right way, we should be doing it, because with this access key and secret access key, okay, being exposed, it doesn't put us in a good position security-wise, okay? So the expected thing to do is to create a role and assign to that role certain responsibilities, okay? Assign to that role certain access, right? So that is what we should be doing normally. Okay, so if we want to do the right thing, how do we go about it? So let me destroy this infrastructure. Okay, so my Terraform destroy command is able to destroy the infrastructure. So yes, okay, so infrastructure is being destroyed. So if I refresh this now, we'll see that that infrastructure is shutting down, okay, in line with the command we just ran. Okay, so now, what do we need to do? Okay, so what we want to do now is, firstly, let's go ahead and delete that user. Okay, let's delete that user. And once we do that, we'll see that whatever it is we've set up here will no longer be valid. Okay, but we could also do this. Let's vi to that file. Okay, vi to .bash_profile is where it's in the home of the user. So the file name is .bash_profile file. Okay, .bash_profile file. Look at that. So vi into that file. Let's delete all of this from here. Then I'll proceed to deleting that user. Okay, I'll proceed to deleting the user. So I'm taking out all of this. Okay, so escape, column WQ. Okay, so if I source that file, let's see. And if I try to run my Terraform plan again, let's see what we get. See, I've deleted that file. You see, although it's still showing up, just because it's not synchronized fully yet. Okay, so now let's proceed to deleting the user. Okay, let's proceed to deleting the IAM user. Okay, so that way we can be sure that whatever we are doing next has got nothing to do with the setup we have going on for us. You see, So this is the users. These are the users, I mean. Let's let it come up. I have some users here. I believe I created one Terraform user. Okay, I have this user. So let me delete this user. Underscore user. Okay, so I want to delete this user. So now this user is deleted. Okay, so if we try running Terraform plan again, let's see, that user no longer exists. Okay, so you see, the user no longer exists, so we are unable to do anything with that user, you see. So what I want to do now is to do what is right, okay? Do things the right way by creating a role, okay? We want to create a role. To create a role here, all we need to do, we'll come to roles, okay? So you can create a role. Let's see. Let's create a new role, okay? You see, so depending on the kind of role, right? See, this one allows services like EC2 and Lambda or others to perform actions on this account, okay? So what I want is actually for that server that I created, that EC2 instance, to perform actions, okay? So that is what I'm trying to achieve, you see, allowing Terraform, allowing EC2 instance, okay, to perform actions on this account. That's what I'm trying to actually achieve. You can see this one allows entities in other AWS accounts belonging to you to perform actions, depending on what you want, you see. So, but this is the option I'm going with. So if I scroll down, you see, common cases, let's say EC2, you see. Let me select that. So depending if you have other in mind, other use cases, okay, you can select it from the drop down, okay. So now, let's say I click on next, okay. Here, I'm looking for EC2 full. Let's say we want to run some of those things we've been able to run, EC2 full, okay. Let's assign EC2 full policy to that role, okay? So we can create policy as we've seen when we're learning AWS itself, okay? But today we are looking at Terraform, okay? So let's call this role name Terraform role, something like this. Terraform role, okay? We can just call it Terraform role, okay? Space it, you can, okay? You can see what this does, okay? Okay, is to assume EC2 full access policy, okay, is what we have attached to it. So we want to create this role, okay. So if we want to have other tags, we can add tags. That's optional. So we can just go ahead and create a role. Okay, role can contain alpha, okay, the space underscore. So let's just close up the space and create our role. You see, the role is being created. The role is being created. So role has been now been created. So if you go ahead and search for EC2, for example, let's look at the instances that we have, okay? So we have this, just this instance running, you see, this Terraform server. So it is with this Terraform server that we've been doing everything we've been doing so far, right? So now, looking at this Terraform server, if for some reasons we want to now assign that role, okay? The role that we created, if we want to assign the role, okay, to this server, so we can either go in and opening this up or click on this, let's see. let's see, the action we want to take is to, let's see, security. Under security, we want to modify IAM role, okay? Before now, there was no role assigned to this server, right? There was no role assigned to this server. But if we want to go ahead and assign a role, okay? So we can click on modify a role, okay? So modify a role. Right now, you see nothing is here, right? So if we click on this drop down, okay? See, this is the one we just created now, okay? This is the one we just created, Terraform role, you see? We just created this. So if you click on this, you can click on update IAM role, okay? So now that we've updated IAM role, okay, if you recall, just a while ago, we ran Terraform plan, okay? We ran Terraform plan and we hit a brick wall, okay? Because whatever it is we are trying to achieve, we were unable to achieve it because of the state of our user, right? The user had been deleted. So for some reason, if I decide to run this same Terraform plan again, you see, it says planning failed, okay? Configuring Terraform providers, okay? AWS provider, validating provider, let's see. Invalid client token, okay? Let's look at the line. It says on line 11. Okay, let's see what we have there. VI, okay. VI 6.tf. Okay, so says on line 11. What's wrong there? Security group default. Okay. Provider. Configure the AWS provider. Okay. Let's see. Okay, maybe it just requires some time to synchronize. Okay, so let's take a look at what the error message is again. Let's run this again, okay? Okay, on 6th, provider AWS. I didn't modify the script, but let's just take a look at it again. Now you see that the error we are getting is exactly the same error message we got when we deleted the user, okay? So what I want us to do now is to come in here. Let's restart the Terraform server, okay? Let's stop it and start it or reboot it. Let's just stop it, okay? Let's stop the instance, okay? And bring it up all over again, okay? We'll bring it up all over again. So let's look at this. This is gone, okay? We can try to bring up a new session, okay? And go to the same directory and see what we get out of it. So let's see. Is it down? Okay, stopped already. So let's start it up again. So start instance. Pending. So we have a public IP address. So let's go ahead and add this. Okay. Let's add this. Specify username as EC2-user. Right. So if we come here, advanced SSH settings, let's use private key. Where's the key? Have it down here. Okay, so that's the key. So instance should be up now. Okay, so this is the key, so network error. Let's try again. Oh, that could have been an issue. Let's see, network error. Or we can just try again and try to bring in. But what I see here is different from what we imputed. Oh, it's changed. The IP address has changed. Again, let's see. Let's pick that up again. Okay, 3.138 is what I was hoping to see up there. I think it's changed. 3.138. Okay, it's changed. Let's just go ahead and start new session. Let's put this in. Specify username EC2-user. Okay, so advanced SSH settings. Let's use a private key. Okay, so this should be fine now. Let's accept. Okay, so we are in. So let's CD to 6th. That's where we've been working. Okay, so here, you see, we have the file here, sys.tf. So let's run our Terraform plan command. Terraform plan. It's taking too long. Okay, it worked now. Okay, so all we needed to do was just to restart the server. Okay, and the role that we have assigned was able to take effect. Okay, so now looking at this, you see, if you recall, we went to that file. Where's the file? We went to this file, okay, bash underscore profile. We modified it and took out all those access key and secret key that we had specified in this file, okay? And that way, we do not have our access key exposed. Even the user is gone right now, as you can see. The user is gone, okay? So what we are using now is using the role, okay? We created a Terraform role, and using the Terraform role, we're able to proceed and set it up, okay? We're able to add the role, okay, to the instance, right? We're able to add the role to the instance, and the role is capable of doing EC2 full related as EC2 full permissions. So that's the policy we attach to the role. Okay. So now that we've established that, what we need to do is that we want to go ahead and run the Terraform apply command. Okay. Terraform apply wants it to auto approve. Auto dash approve. Okay. So if we run this, you see, if we go check out the instance, you see, if we go check out here, we'll see that an instance is being created. You see, this is gone. Okay, you can see another one has popped up down here, right? You see, this is a new instance updated less than 1 minute ago. Okay, this was updated less than a minute ago. You see, this was updated less than a minute ago. So with this, we're able to use the role, you see, we're able to use the role to set it up. You see, with the role, there's no way anything like secret access or secret key is being exposed. Everything is dependent on the role I've created and assigned to the instance, you see. That way, you can be sure that security is guaranteed, right? Security is guaranteed. So let's take a look at something else, okay? You see, if you look at what we've done so far, you see, if you look at what we've done so far, let's see, Terraform scripts we have here, okay? We've been able to create variable and you see, all those things we're able to do before now, you see, all those things we're able to do before now. If you go to each of those directories, you see, if you go to each of those directories, you realize that with what we have set up now, we can also do the same thing. So you see, we can go ahead and destroy, okay? You can go ahead and destroy, you see? So if you remember, when we were creating like the scripts we created earlier, let's go back and take a look at the script, okay? The script we created earlier, you'll see that we set up a security group, right? We used a default security group to set up our script, okay? But it is not impossible that we create a security group, okay? We can create a security group. We can create a security group and also go ahead and utilize the same security group, okay? So in that situation, we are looking at creating multiple resources. You see, we can create multiple resources and use the same resource, okay, within the same script, you see. We can then refer to that particular resource that has been created. So if we go back to this particular file, okay, let's vi to sixth, okay, 6.tf, for example. If you look at this, you see, right here, we have this instance, right? We have this instance, okay, and we set it up that, oh, security group, you see, we set it up so that security group will be the default security group, right? Security group should be the default security group. But it's not impossible for us to create a resource, okay? A security group resource, okay? We can create a security group resource and go ahead and refer to that security group that is being created, okay, within the same Terraform script, you see. So that is also a possibility, right? We can create a resource and refer to the resource that has been created for utilization, you see. That is also a possibility. So let's see what we can do in that light, okay? If we go back to our Terraform documentation, this AWS, let's say under EC2, okay, let's see, under EC2, let's see, security group. Let's see what we have here. Okay, instance, let's just see. Let's see if we'll find security group. Okay, security groups, you see. If you are creating instances in VPC, use this, okay? Let's see, security groups. I do not want to specify a particular security group. instance type, okay. Okay, so this is what I was trying to point out earlier about creating a resource and utilizing the same resource within within the same script. For example, for this, okay, this is something we've done in the past, okay, this is something we've done, okay, so we can just look at this, for example. For example, here, this resource, AWS VPC, is being created, okay? So this has to be specified exactly as it is specified here, AWS underscore VPC. But this, you can name it as you wish, okay? Let's say this creates this VPC, you see, name this, and this is the CIDR block specified, you see. This is the CIDR block specified. So now, in terms of tag, you look and see, this is the tag. Now, another resource is being created, AWS Subnet. This must be stated exactly like this, you see. But the name you want to give your subnet, okay, could be anything, right? You could name this as you wish, you see. You can call this Ademola subnet, right? You can call it anything. You can call it whatever it is you want to call it, okay? Now, if you look at this subnet, okay, we want to get the VPC ID, right? VPC ID, you see, VPC ID will be AWS underscore VPC dot whatever name it is you have called it, you see, whatever name it is you have called it, dot ID, you see. This way, it is utilizing this resource that was created here, you see. This resource block will create a resource, and a resource, AWS VPC is the resource, okay, named this, you see, which could be anything, right? It could be Ademola's VPC, right? But here, another resource is being created, you see. Another resource is being created. But to know the VPC ID, it is associated with, okay, this is how you refer to the VPC, you see. VPC has been created quite all right with this. VPC will be created, you see. But here, AWS VPC, which is up here, dot, whatever the name you call it, but in this case, is my underscore VPC, then you say dot ID, you see. Now, if you look at this, you see, this is the CIDR block for the entire VPC, okay? This is the CIDR block for the entire VPC. But whatever CIDR block you want created, you want it to fall within this VPC. Whatever CIDR block you want specified for the subnet, okay? It has to be a CIDR block that falls within the CIDR block of the entire VPC. That is why you see 172.16.10.10.0/24. You see, in which availability zone, this availability zone. You can see this is similar to what we've done before. Okay. So now, if you go ahead and if you look at this, okay, now network interface is being created. Okay. So with this network interface, you see, the network interface will relate to the subnet, right? It relates to a subnet. Now, to refer to a particular subnet, you need to come here, okay? You want to get subnet ID, you need to say AWS underscore subnet, which has to be written exactly like this, which is this, dot, whatever it is the name you called it, you see, whatever it is the name you called it, then dot ID, you see. And the AWS network interface also has this CIDR block. You see, private IPs, you see, has this private IP setup, okay? And that private IP is within here, you see. If you look at this, you see that it is this private IP that's been specified here, okay, is exactly within this CIDR block. You see, it's exactly within the CIDR block, and the tag given, okay, similar to what we've done. You see, we have tags, and the name of the tag is primary underscore network underscore interface. So if you go ahead and look at this, you also see an AWS instance is being created. You see, if you remember, this is what we've been working on. Okay, if you look at creating instances and all of that, you can see resource AWS instance underscore instance, and we called it EC2 instance. Okay, so you could call this anything you want. Okay, but this has to be written exactly like this for it to work. Okay, so and you can see the documentation is providing guidance. You see, documentation is providing guidance. I can see the name here. So this is the name provided. Okay. In our own case, we wrote EC2 instance. Let's confirm what we wrote. EC2 instance, okay, is what we wrote. But this could be anything, right? This could be anything. Okay, so you can see this is what was specified. The AMI to be used, okay, you can see AMI. This AMI is for the Amazon machine image, you know. And from what they have here, there's a note that this AMI can be found in US-West-East -West-2, okay? And the instance type here is what? T2.micro, you see? So T2.micro. Now, to know the network interface ID, okay, that this resource is going to be built on, you see, this exactly as it is, okay, this exactly as it is, dot the name of the network interface that has been chosen, okay? Whatever the name is, then you say dot ID, you see, and you say dot ID. So just in case I want to, I'm looking at this script that I have here, okay? This script that I have here, let's try to make another, let's try to generate another script, okay, using these details we have here. Let's say, you see, we've worked on this before. Let's open this up. Okay, let's open this up. Let's say I want to create a new script. Let me call this 7 and call this seventh.tf, okay? TF, okay? Let me call this seventh.tf. And in here, what do I want to do? I want to leave every other thing as it is, okay? I'm using the row to the AWS role that we set up to create this right now. So what I want to do is that I want to come in here, for example, okay? Let's say I want to use a particular security group, okay? Let's say I want to use a particular security group. I want a new security group created, okay? So I can come in here and say, can come in here and specify resource, okay? I can come in here and specify resource, okay? So in specifying resource, let's say I want to call this resource. It has to be specified like this anyway. It's not about what I want to call it. Resource is what I'm creating, okay? It has to be specified as AWS underscore security group underscore group, okay? So AWS underscore security group. I must specify it as this, okay? But let's say this security group, I want to give it a name, okay? Let's say I want to give it Terraform. Let's say Terraform, you see, just Terraform SG, okay? Give it Terraform and say underscore SG, okay? Say Terraform SG, okay? But if I go ahead, okay, I'll explain that anyway. So then I press, open my curly bracket and it closes. So I go in between, okay? I'll go in between. Let's say the name I want to call this, okay? Let's say I want to call this, name, need to specify the name, okay? Need to specify the name of the, let's say the name is Terraform. Let's leave it as we've specified security group. Let's say this is the name, okay? Terraform security group. So what else would be important, okay? So let's take a look at AWS instance, okay? Let's say we are trying to security groups, okay? Let's say we want to create a security group, okay? See, click on here. I want to create a security group, okay? AWS security group. So name, we'll put in name, you see, which we've done, okay? Description is also key, okay? Description is also key. So put in a description, okay? So put in a description. So let's say description is what? Description equal to, okay? So let's say this is just a test, okay? Put it in here. Test security group for Terraform, okay? Okay, so let's say this is the security group, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at some other components, okay? Let's take a look at some other components. You see, we want to be able to add our inbound rules, okay? We want to be able to add our inbound rules, okay? You can see here you have VPC, see? You have VPC, okay? You can specify this VPC as well, you see? You can specify the VPC. Then if you go down, you see we have inbound rules and we have inbound rules. You also have outbound rules, okay? So we can decide to set up inbound rules, okay? For the instance to be able to work, right? There are some key things that are important to be in place, right? There are some key things that are important to be in place, right? So we need to be able to open port 22, okay? We need to be able to open port 22, okay? Depending on the number of ports we want to open, right? We need to be able to open port 22, for example, you see? For example, you can say that's outbound. Let's just take a look at inbound rules. Add rule, for example, you see? Protocol type is TCP, you see? Let's say you want SSH traffic, for example. So what it means is that you want port 22, okay? And from everywhere, okay? This will indicate from anywhere. You see, this cider block will indicate from anywhere. So we want to be able to go into our script, okay, and set this up in there, right? We want to be able to go into our scripts and set this up in there. So to set this up, what we need to do is that we need to come back in here, okay, and specify ingress, okay, ingress, okay, that's like inbound rules, okay? Ingress, you see. And see, it's making some suggestions already, you see. Ingress. So you can open your curly brackets, okay, and it closes. So within here, you can click on enter, okay. So now, from, okay, from underscore port, you want to be able to specify 22, okay, because that's the SSH port, okay. To underscore port, you want to be able to specify port 22 there as well, okay. You want to be able to specify port 22. You can also go ahead and make this align, okay. So you have port 22, okay. So if you look at this, when we set up port 22 there, you see the protocol for port 22, you see SSH port is TCP, okay. So you want to be able to define protocol as well. You want to be able to define protocol and say protocol. You want to define that as TCP, okay, TCP, okay. So then something else that is very important that we need to specify is we need to specify our, let's take a look at that. We need to specify our CIDR block, okay. So we check here, you see, to be able to specify these CIDR blocks, okay. So come in here and specify, where's the, okay, VS Code, okay. Specify CIDR underscore blocks, you see. So we can define that as well and specify, okay, within quotes, okay, and put 0.0.0.0/0 from anywhere, you see. So which is exactly what we have here, okay. You want to be able to put that there as well, okay. So let's make this as simple as possible and go ahead, and if for some reason we want to use this resource that is being created, okay, we want to use this resource that is being created in this particular, as the security group, you see, we want to use this as the security group here, okay. So what it means is that we need to specify that, okay, in place of this default. Remember, we know that default security group exists, okay. We know that default security group exists, so we're using this default before now. But this time around, we are creating a resource and want to use this resource in particular, okay. So we are taking out default, okay, and based on what we saw earlier, okay, taking out default, and based on what we saw earlier, okay, we want to be able to use this security group, okay. We want to be able to use this security group, okay, in place of what we add here, okay. We want to be able to use the new security group, okay. So to do that, okay, so you need to specify the security group IDs, okay. We need to specify the VPC, specify this, okay. VPC underscore security group IDs underscore IDs. Okay, so not just security groups this time, okay. We need to specify that, okay. So this time around, what we are going to do is to copy this, okay. Remember, that's what we saw earlier. I want to copy that. I want to copy that. So put that here and say dot, okay. Dot what? Terraform SG, remember? That's what we discussed earlier based on what we saw. Terraform.id, you see, .id, you see. So we have this setup, you see, we have this setup. So if I go ahead and let's try to run this script, okay, with everything we've done now. We've created a resource up here, and we are trying to use this resource, okay. Let's change this name, okay. Creating and using created resources. Source, okay, we can just make it this simple, okay. But let's take a look at what we have here, you see. If you remember what we did here, we specified this, okay, we specified this, okay, depending, you see. I was hoping to see, just a minute, let's just take a look at something here. Let's search for security group in here within the AWS documentation, security underscore group. Let's see. Should be able to. Can see resources, AWS security group. So this looks like, let's take a look at this. Looks similar to what we are working on, like trying to create a security group, okay? And see resource, okay? So let's just compare to what we have set up, okay? Resource, AWS underscore security group, and we specify the name, okay? So the name of the security group is this, description, VPC ID, okay? We can specify a VPC ID, okay? Did we miss that out? That we're trying to emphasize on that, okay? VPC ID, let's see, we have the VPC ID here, okay? We could use the exact VPC ID that we have here, okay? Which is in Ohio, so that it can create the VPC, it can create the security group within this VPC, okay? So we should be able to specify that since we are not creating a new VPC, right? So we should be able to specify that. Let's take a look at what we have here. Name description is covered. So let's take a look at this. If we come here, see, VPC ID is specified here. Okay, we can come here and specify VPC ID as well, because it is important we get this right. Description and all of this, very important. Okay, if we miss it, we are going to get it all wrong. Okay, so let's say VPC ID, we've copied it, C underscore ID. Okay, so is equal to what? Let's paste this. You see, we pasted it. The issue is what we want to see. Can open and close. Okay, so this should work now. VPC ID. Okay, so VPC ID, we have that specified. So from to, okay, so let's see what we have. From to, okay, so protocol is TCP, CIDR blocks, we specified CIDR block. because we want it from everywhere. Okay, so, because this is just SSH traffic, right? So from anywhere. Okay, so I think that's sufficient. And we in here wanted to use this. Okay, VPC groups. Okay, so we say AWS security group this dot Terraform underscore security group dot ID. Okay, so I believe with this we should be fine. Okay, so the VPC ID, we've copied it, right? And we've utilized it. So let's copy this script. Okay, so let's say this is let's come in here. There's mobile extend. Okay, so this is it here. So let's create a new directory. Okay, let's say we want to get out of here, cd dot. Okay, one step back, okay, to the parent directory. I want to make a directory. So I want to make a directory, mkdir. The directory name we want to make this time is, let's say, 7th. Okay, let's say 7th is the directory. And after making directory, we want to go into 7th, right? So 7th, okay. So we are in 7th. Within 7th now, let's vi into a file. Let's call this 7th.tf. Okay, so 7th.tf. So if we go ahead and paste this now, let's see what we get. Okay, so we've been able to use the details we got right on the Terraform documentation as a guide, okay, to ensure that we've specified everything correctly, right? You see, we specified everything correctly. So this is just to, you see, this is just to create security group. You can see this is similar to what we did, but this is egress. Okay, so we can go ahead now and initialize. Okay, let's save this file. Okay, so we can go ahead now and initialize. Okay, by running Terraform init. Okay, we can initialize this file by running Terraform init. So once we do this, see, it's initializing backend. Okay, Terraform has been successfully initialized. So let's see what happens. Okay, let's try to run our Terraform validate. Let's see what it tells us. Terraform validate. It says unsupported, okay, unsupported argument on line 35. VPC underscore security groups IT, okay, says unsupported arguments. Oh, did you mean security group IDs? Okay, I think this is where we got it wrong. Okay, so let's VI back into that file. Okay, so, oh, okay, because I modified an existing file. So I entered this wrongly. Okay, security group IDs. Okay, so it's able to make suggestion because it was so smart to know what we intended to do and how we got it wrong. Okay, so you see, so let's try to revalidate. Okay, configuration is valid. Okay, so let me just modify that file. Security group IDs. Okay, security group IDs. See, security group IDs. You see, there's even a suggestion here, right? So security group IDs. So now that we've done this, security group, AWS security group ID, so it looks good. So let's see what happens when we run the Terraform plan command. Let's see. Okay, so it says it plans to add 2 resources, right? The first resource being the security group and the other one being the instance. So we can run our Terraform apply command now. Apply. Let's use the -- auto approve flag. Auto approve. So let's see. Okay, so it's creating security group. It's been created. You can see the security group ID is this. See, we're also creating what else? The instance itself. So if we come up here, you see, to come up here, we've only used this as guidance, right? To know what we need name, you see, we need description, we need VPC ID, okay, which we entered, okay. Then here for inbound rules, we needed to set up port 22 from and to 22 from anywhere, right? We decided to set this up as the CIDR block, right? To ensure that everything works, okay? So now, if we go and check here, let's see, EC2, let's see what we have. You can see we have 2 EC2 instances running, okay? You can see creating and using created resource, okay? So if we come here, you see, we have a security group. Okay, if we check under security, you see, we have Terraform security group. Remember, this is what we created, Terraform security group, and we specified that we wanted port 22 open, you see. So this time around, we didn't use the default security group. Rather, we used a security group, okay, that we created, okay? So we used a security group that we created. You can see here, we're able to get help, right? We came to the Terraform documentation, we checked under AWS, right? And we searched for security group, right? So even if we want to check for instance, right? Instance, EC2 instance, for example, let's say we want to create instance, you see, EC2 instance, you can see, EC2 instance, AWS instance, you see, AWS instance. If you scroll down, you see this assuming an Ubuntu instance is being created. Let's see. You can see something similar to what we saw earlier, right? I think this isn't what we saw earlier, right? So you can see, well, it's just the same idea, right? If you want to use subnet ID, for example, you need to say this.id, right? You see, that way you are referring to this resource. So this way you can refer to other resources that are being created, you see, because this resource, ability to proceed with creating this resource will be dependent on this one, okay? If this does not exist, it will not be possible, okay, to create the other, okay, except to specify the particular resource, okay, that has already been created. But this way, we've seen that it is actually possible to create a new resource and manage and use the resource in creating another resource, like referring to a particular resource and using that to create another resource. So this is something else I feel we should understand, okay? There's no point memorizing anything from what you've seen, okay? There's no point memorizing anything. It's just to have an understanding of what we intend to do. Once we have an understanding of what we intend to do, it will be easy, okay, to make use of the documentation provided by the platform, like Terraform, for example. You see the documentation provided. You can imagine trying to memorize all of this, but what is very important with Terraform is to have an understanding, okay, of what we need to work on, you see, have an understanding of what we need to work on. For example, if you look at here, you see, I have a script here. I call this, which one is this? 7.tf, okay. So not this. I have this script, okay, is on Elastic Kubernetes Service, okay. Here, what we did was to specify a cloud provider, okay. And with this, we are able to create a VPC, you see. With this, you are able to create a VPC. You see, we created a VPC with this. You see, this is the name of the VPC we created. Okay, you could call this anything you like, right? See, here, within the CIDR block, we set up these tags. Okay, this is the tag, this is the name. You could have multiple tags. Okay, you could set up a branch. You could set up a branch as a tag. Okay, so once you set up a branch as a tag, you need to specify the value. Okay, maybe it's dev or whatever it is you want. Okay, so from our understanding, see, it's also possible to create an internet gateway. You see, we can create an internet gateway using this, and see, with this, an internet gateway will get created. But this, just as we had with what we've done before, okay, like the AWS underscore security group underscore security underscore group, here to create an instance, a resource instance, you must specify this AWS underscore VPC. You must specify it exactly like this, okay? Then in terms of the name of the resource, you can decide to put what you want to call it. Then here you specified a CIDR block, you see? From our understanding of how AWS works, we are able to figure out this, right? We are creating a VPC. The VPC requires a name, and we need to specify a CIDR block, okay? Here, we specified tags, okay? You can have multiple tags. You can have branch, you can have division, you can have whatever, okay? Now, we needed for an internet gateway to exist, okay? So that we can create public subnets and allow them get inward and outward traffic, okay? So internet gateway is necessary. So we have an internet gateway created within this VPC, okay? So now, for us to see, we are creating an internet gateway, okay? This has to be exactly like this, but this could be anything you want to name it, okay? In this case, we call it TechDom IGW, okay? But if you look at this, okay, you see VPC ID, okay? Which VPC? Remember, in the last example, we created a resource, okay? We created a resource and we called the resource security group, right? There was a security group we created, okay? And to refer to the security group, we did whatever it was we had here, dot, whatever it was we had here, dot ID, you see? Now, I want to create a resource within this VPC, okay? So for me to be able to call the VPC ID, okay, of this resource, I need to say whatever it is was here, dot, whatever it is I have here, dot ID, you can see, that's the VPC ID. Just as simple as that, right? We just need to be able to know exactly how it is, right? So for example, if I didn't know how to, I didn't have access to the script Ademola has provided there, I could just come here and type in VPC, for example, you see, under AWS documentation, you see, I see VPC, you see. can see VPC, AWS default VPC. You can see this, for example, if it's AWS default VPC. See, this is just straightforward, AWS default VPC. So let's just say you are trying to create a VPC, okay? Let's say you are trying to create a VPC, and just run through here and look for what you are looking for, you see, depending on what you want. VPC, let's click on this, for example, resources, route table, security group, default subnet, you see. Let's scroll down. Okay, AWS VPC is right here, you see. So if you come here, you see resource, AWS VPC. These guys, they decided to call theirs main, you see. In that example I was looking at, I called it tech dump VPC, right? So this is cider block, you can see. This shows us how to create a VPC, you see. So here, if you are creating with tag, you can call it, you can give it some tags, you can give it multiple tags if you want, just as we have in the example provided, you see. So this is a guide, you see. If this is a guide, you see, if you want to create this on your own, you can always come, okay? As long as you have an understanding of what you intend to achieve, it becomes all easy, right? You can see in this situation, I want to create an internet gateway, you see, internet gateway. If you are trying to create an internet gateway, okay, based on your understanding of AWS, internet underscore gateway, you can just say gateway, you can search, okay, you can see AWS internet gateway, see, resource, AWS internet gateway. This has to be exactly as this, you see, and this is what I have, right? So if you recall, in the example they provided, they called the VPC that is being created here, they called it main, okay? And AWS VPC, remember, .main.id, okay? But in our own case, if you look at this script that I have here, in this script, you see, AWS VP underscore VPC, exactly as this, exactly as it is here, dot the name, in our case, is not main, rather is techdump.vpc, you see, .id. So this way, we have this, and you can also create a tag, you see. So now, you can create public subnets and private subnets, you see. You can create public subnets and private subnets, okay? So if you look at this, you see, this is a cider block for the entire VPC, okay? For the 65K plus resources that will be created, okay? Using this, okay, you're able to create 65K plus resources, right? So if you look at here, you see that the cider block for the subnets, right? Look at this. The cider block for the subnets are exactly within this cider block, you see? You can see cider block for this private subnets, right? Private subnet is being created here. And what else? We also have another private subnet. Okay. And if you scroll down, you see we have this for the public subnet. And you have this for the public subnet. Okay. So to ensure availability, you can see we have these subnets in different availability zones. You see, one public subnet is in US-East-1A, and this one is in US-East-1B. You see, we are looking at different resources that are being created, okay? Now, if you go back, you see these subnets, okay? If you remember, when we're looking at AWS, we talked about creating VPCs, and within the VPCs, okay, you want to create subnets, okay? And within the subnets, you want to create EC2 instances, for example, those resources, okay? Because you can't directly create something, okay? You can't directly create an instance in in the VPC, okay, without specifying subnet. Let's look at an example, okay? So let's say we want to create an instance, okay? Because this is the best way we can understand it. Let's say we want to create an instance. We put in whatever, okay? Put in whatever, that's the name of the instance we are creating. And I scroll down, I want Red Hat, you see? This is just based on the understanding we have. I have key name, I'm specifying this. There's a key, okay? I scroll down, okay? If you look at this, you can see this is default VPC, okay? So if I just create a VPC and there's no, you see, this default VPC, subnet, no preference here, okay? So if I come here, you see, default VPC, okay? If I come here, this is the other VPC we created in the course of the AWS class, okay? So yeah, if you scroll down, you see, if you scroll down, you see here, you automatically have some subnets, okay? So if there's no subnet here, if no subnet exists, we will not be able to proceed, you see? This one has selected the subnet, okay? So, but here, when we create selected VPC default, okay, says no preference, right? It means you can create it anywhere, right? But in this other situation, right, these are specific, this is a specific VPC that we created, okay? So it wants me to select a specific public or private subnet, okay? You can see all these things we did here are the exact things we could do with Terraform, you see? You can create this, okay? You can create this, right? Okay, we've not done Kubernetes, so it will make sense for me to be explaining all of this for now, okay? Maybe after completing Kubernetes, we'll be able to have a better understanding. So it is important that we look at what we've done so far and have a strong understanding of everything we've done so that when we get to this point, okay, it's going to be a piece of cake, okay? So now you see, for example, the VPC ID, this.id, you see? If you scroll down, you also see we have these resources, okay, created, subnets, okay. Now, if you remember, network address translation gateway, NAT gateway. Remember, okay, when we created it then, we talked about using an elastic IP address, right? We used an elastic IP because we needed to connect it to one of the public subnets to be able to get access to internet to download things, right? Like applications and all of that into the private subnets, right? So you can see here we have this NAT gateway, okay? To create a NAT gateway, we needed to specify an allocation ID, okay? Which should be dependent on the elastic IP, okay? That has been created up here. You can see here we created elastic IP, okay? Dot techdom nat, right? This is the name, okay? Dot ID, right? So here you see we want to associate because it's NAT gateway, right? We do not want people getting access directly to our application servers, right? So because of that, we are going to have our application servers created in a private subnets, in private subnets, right? And to be able to get SSH into these private subnets, right? Remember, we used a jump server or bastion host, right? To be able to SSH, right? For us to be able to get into those servers, we need to go into a public server, into a server that is created in the public subnet, right? And because they are in the same VPC, we're able to SSH from there into our private servers or application servers, right? So that was what we looked at when we were looking at AWS. But we also realized that we needed to have the capability of installing applications, right? You want to install Git, you want to install Tomcat or whatever it is, right? For your application server, okay? You want to have installations done, okay? It is only possible because of the existence of NAT gateway, okay? So the NAT gateway makes it possible for you to do a one-way communication with the internet, like downloading, right? So now you can see subnet ID here, okay, is picking just one of the public subnets. If you remember, we created public subnets, right? We created public subnets. You see, if you look at it up here, we created subnets. We are the subnets, you see. Created public subnets, you see, public subnets. This one is in 1B, this one is in 1A, right? But you can actually choose any of them, right? It doesn't have to be anyone, right? You can decide to use 1B, but you just need to be able to connect it to one of those subnets that have routes to the internet, right? So you see, tags, you can call this tag the network as network address translation, okay? Okay, take them NAT, okay? Depends on what, okay? This also depends on the internet gateway. You remember we created an internet gateway earlier. So without the internet gateway, okay, there will be no access, okay, for it to even be able to download. You remember when we did AWS, these are things we demonstrated, okay? Now we are able to see them with Terraform, okay? So now you can see, you can create route tables, you see, you can create route tables, right? You can create route tables. This is how we go about that. You can create route tables, you see. For the route tables, you see, you can create a private route table, okay? You can create a private route table up here, and you can also create a public route table, you see. So for the private route table, you want to be able to ensure that you use the NAT gateway because you need the routing setup for the NAT gateway, okay, to be able to work, right? You see, you can see this NAT gateway NAT gateway ID. You can see this NAT gateway we created. Here's it. Resource AWS underscore NAT underscore gateway dot techdomnat dot ID. You can see that's the NAT gateway ID. You see, this is the NAT gateway ID. Okay, so you can see the CIDR block also set up here. Okay, set up the CIDR block and this private. Okay, so this is the public. Okay, for you to have routes to the internet, you see, for you to have a public, for you to have a public subnet, you need to have route to the internet. So this one is the regular one, gateway ID without NAT. Okay, so that gives access to the internet. So using the AWS underscore internet underscore gateway. Okay, so now for all of this, you see, with what we have here, we've just created like just creating public and private gateways, right? This private gateway is intended for use for the NAT gateway, right? Because we need it for the for the private subnets, right? So, and the public gateway, okay, this public gateway down here that we have here, public route table, we need it for the public subnets, okay? So now, look at here, you see here, trying to, you see, we have trying to associate, okay? Like the private subnet, for example, okay? We want to do the association, okay? So AWS underscore subnet, okay? dot private, okay, which we created up there. Remember, we created private subnets up there. Okay, we created the private subnet. Okay, private subnet. You want it associated with what route table? The route table that we have up here. You see, this route table is what we want it associated with. You can see that is why this is specified here, right? You can see AWS underscore route underscore table dot private. So it depends on the name you call this. Because this was called private, that is why you have private down there. But if it is my private route table, RT, for example, down here, we need to specify exactly that, my private RT, you see? So here you can see, this is also being associated with the private route table, you see? And for this public subnet, you see, they are being associated with the public route table, you see? So here we see that we have resource, right? Resource can also, I am resource can also be created. You can see I am row that we created earlier by coming here and setting up I am, you see, by coming here and creating a role. It can also be set up right here, right? You can also, instead of creating a row here, okay, instead of creating a row here, you can come here and create a row exactly the way we created it earlier, right? You can go ahead and create a role, okay? So that is also a possibility. And in this case, you see, this is the role that is being created, cluster role, okay? Assume a role policy, okay? So, you know, when you create a role, you need to associate a policy, right? You see? So you can see we have a role and the policy, you see, let's even come here, you see, let's say we are trying to create this role, for example. You see, let's say we are trying to do this. You see, we come next, you see. Here, it wants us to associate a role, you see, where we entered, you see, EC2 full, which we entered earlier, you see. If you come here, click down here, you see this, you see, this JSON format, right? See this in JSON format. You see, you have this in JSON format. This policy relates to that, okay? You see, you can see. So also, if you look at this, you see, you have this setup, okay? This role policy, right? This role policy, okay? Because the service here is EKS, right? EKS, you can see the role policy. You need to specify assume underscore role underscore policy. Then it opens here. You can see this is the beginning. Then it closes here, right? So within here and there, everything you have in there, you see, so everything you have in there, you can bring it in here, right? Depending on what you want set up, you see. Resource, you can see policy attachments, and on and on and on and on and on, you see. So these are possibilities with Terraform. So with this, I do not want to hammer on this so much, okay? We've seen where we can get the sauce to make our soup, right? So if there's anything you want, we can always find them here in the AWS documentation. But the most important thing we should bear in mind is for us to be able to work with Terraform as relates to any platform, we need to have an understanding of the platform, okay? To use Terraform with AWS, you need to know AWS. You need to understand the services you want to work with, right? If you want to work with Google, okay, Google Cloud Platform with Terraform, you need to understand the services in Google Cloud Platform. Also with Azure, you need to understand the services under Azure to be able to make this work, okay? So the necessary condition is understanding the provider, right? Once you understand the provider, you'll be able to navigate using what you have here in the documentation. So let me see if there's anything we still need to talk about. Okay, we've looked at how variables work. Okay, able to set up variables, and we've also taken a look at the architecture, right? We've seen the architecture, which is important. The understanding the architecture is also very important, right? So now with this, we want to come to an end of this for now, okay? We'll be revisiting as we see anything that has to do with this topic, okay? So, but for now, we'll want to bring it to an end so that we can move on. So in the next session, we'll be looking at at Ansible, right? Now with Terraform, we created infrastructure and all of that, okay? Now you see we're able to create multiple servers at the same time, okay? Which is possible with Terraform, right? And we've been able to give each of the servers unique name, okay? So it is possible that we want to continue with our role as, with our understanding of Linux administration, right? So we want to configure several servers, right? And you don't want to be doing them manually, okay? So we want to use a tool called Ansible, okay? So from tomorrow's session, we should be able to see what Ansible is and how we can get the best out of it, okay? And where we can refer to for resources that will help us get our job done without having to memorize. So thank you. It's been fun. Looking forward to seeing you in the next session. Bye for now.